can do because I would do mute from here.
Up here, if you do search.
Now it's on mute.
You just
Now
type
you can
in-
hear me if I talk or.
Yeah, no, we're live right now, so we're going to keep that muted.
Okay. No, it doesn't matter because it's mute right here. Yep. So you know what? Let's go to the settings on this. How about right?
There's this executive session.
Panelists,
Panelists,
that's
that's
it.
it. And then for executive session with that other one.
Click here.
And then you just click.
Settings
And I
over
have to
here.
wear my earbuds.
You
There
do.
you go.
Airtime or MTPS?
Wow, you're fancy. Yeah. I got
They
crafty.
come all the way from China.
Wow,
One on,
wow.
and then they,
My
it
kids
took me
have that. Yeah,
forever to
I
get
see
them.
that, yeah.
Doesn't matter which year you wear it in.
I don't think so. Well, I guess it's focused one way. Like I think this one would be your left, right? Oh, no, you're right. Down, right down.
Look,
It tells you, mine has an
I'm
R.
from China.
Oh, that's why you can't tell. They don't have the, normally they have it on.
Lester, do you need help with
Launching Zoom.
getting on?
I think this is the left
Okay.
ear.
Okay, mine still says launching Zoom. The phone here. My mute says Frank.
Good evening. We'll be beginning momentarily.
Yeah. Oh, no, not yet. No.
Hey, Chris? I'm sorry, buddy. Can you hear me for a minute? Sorry.
Are we good? Barry, are you on?
So sorry, I can't get into my email. He's gonna just reset it for me real quick.
There's a delay.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Right.
Okay.
Then I'm here. I'll be on in a minute.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the meeting. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided sending of notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Press, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August minor administrative offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminetti? Mr. Donlin? Mr. Donlin? Mr. Donlin? Mr. Jimo?
Here.
Mr. Heffernan? Mr. Little?
Here.
Mrs. Tobacco?
Here.
Mrs. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Capone? Mrs. Minuis?
Yeah. Okay, can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amy, can you hear me?
Mike's on.
Yes, I hear you now.
Okay, before we open up for public comments, I want to let everyone know how the meeting is going to go. We are going to take 1 hour of public comment, and being we are starting a few minutes late, we will adjust that time. What's going to happen is the 1 hour of public comment, and then we are going to have a presentation by our administration about the reentry plan, how we started and where we are now for the public. So we will start public comment now and we will go until 7:43. Mr. Rotolo? Till
Okay. First hand I see raised is Stephanie. I
Mr. Rotolo?
don't have a last name, but hopefully they can provide it with us. Right for it.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Stephanie Vecchiarelli. I have a daughter at River Plaza in 2nd grade, and I have a son in the MD class at Bayview Elementary. First, I want to congratulate Joan and congratulate all the new board members. I wish you all the best of luck. I wanted to raise my hand and talk a little bit about the possibility of revising the reopening plan, which I think you guys are discussing in a closed door meeting tonight. So my first I have a question. Why the closed door meeting? I'm just trying to get some clarity on that and understand why it's closed door. If it's regarding the reopening, I feel like we all want to know what is going on with that. And then second, I just want to make a comment. I think that with the rise in cases right now in New Jersey and specifically Monmouth County, we really need to take a very cautious approach to having more kids in the classroom and possibly giving them lunch. I think that the safety and health of my children and of all children in the district, as well as all the staff, should be the first priority when we're looking at the reopening plan and possibly revising phases or moving into additional phases. My son currently attends in person, as does my daughter. I would like to continue that. So I don't want a virtual only option, but I want to continue it in a safe environment where I feel like they could have social distance, where masks are worn at all times. I'm very concerned about the possibility of lunchtime and what that means for distancing and masking and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to sort of raise the flag of let's be cautious. Let's look at safety. Let's look at the health of our children and our staff. And please keep that the priority. Again, we all want our children in school. We all want them learning in person, but it has to be done safely, especially during these very difficult months that I think we're facing with the rise in cases. So thank you very much. I wish everyone the best of luck, and I appreciate your openness to listening to the public comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay, next is Lila. I don't have a last name.
Hi, that's actually my daughter's name. She uses this for library Zoom. My name is Roxanne Judas. I live in the Leonardo section of town. I actually emailed the board earlier today, but I would like my comments on public record as well. Just to echo what the previous caller just said, I'm also concerned about the reorganization and reopening plan for this current school year. My daughter is actually pre-K. She would be slated to attend Leonardo grade school in the fall for kindergarten, though I am right now on the fence about sending her to the school district because I feel like politics is coming before safety. Besides being a parent in this district, I am also a teacher in a neighboring high school district. We too are hybrid. As a union leader in the district, I've had to stand up and fight for the safety of both students and staff members. Of course, as a teacher, as an educator, I say in-person education should be the end goal, but not at the detriment to the health and well-being, both mentally and physically, to the school and wider community. Because what happens in the school doesn't stop at the school. People go home to their families. They go to jobs. You know, this can spread a lot more quickly than we think. To think hard on the reopening of schools at this moment for more in-person instruction and collapsed cohorts until more teachers and the wider community can access vaccination. Yesterday in my district, I met as a union leader with administrators to discuss our reopening plan. We are preparing to return for 5 days in April, knowing that there will be a much numbers of COVID cases as people can spend more time outside, and again, so more people can be vaccinated. Also, there's less natural seasonal disease transmission in the spring. While it's been a difficult road to teach virtually and in the hybrid, I would much prefer that students be in the room with me. We all collectively understand the impact of flouting to make a political point. So I hope you all address the safety precautions, additional sanitation, and how you will handle anything like absenteeism by both students and staff as you present your plan later tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Colleen.
Hi, this is Colleen Halloran.
Hi, Colleen.
I just wanted to voice my opinion as far as my 2 high school students. I believe that it is safe and it is time to bring them all back full time. I don't have a question or other comment. I just needed to get my opinion heard. Thank you.
Okay, next is Marcy Hardy.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak tonight. I just wanted to question, just like the first caller did, why tonight's topic for this special meeting is a closed meeting to the public. I feel the severity of the topic you all will be discussing includes everybody in this community, and I feel it's important for us to hear all the board members' opinions and what they're basing them on for reentry. And I don't think excluding us from hearing what everyone has to say on the board is going to instill trust in this community. And I think particularly with it being, with a few new board members joining, I think that would be pertinent for everybody to want to build trust within the community. So I think if possible, you should reconsider having this discussion tonight so that we can all hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Okay, next is Ellen Twigg.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ellen Twigg. I live on 29 Terry Lane, and I have a special needs son who attends Nut Swamp Elementary, and he's in 1st grade. I wanted to let you guys know my story of my son a little bit with special needs, and then make a few comments around transmission as well as the April date that was mentioned. I think, as you know, I am an environmental health and safety professional, and am working closely on this for over 60,000 people across the globe. So I understand the position that you're in, and also have a lot of expertise in this area. But first, with respect to my son and special needs, I think Jacqueline is also familiar with myself, and maybe Frank with my son. Basically, my son is special needs and was having a very hard time with the virtual learning to the point where he was becoming violent and starting to harm himself. And I actually engaged the school because I was so concerned about what was going on in my house. And my son never exhibited these behaviors before. When he was in kindergarten, he had a great experience at Nut Swamp. I want to commend Mr. Leone for bringing him forward into the first group of cohorts that came back 5 days a week full time. It changed our family's life. It changed my son's life. He no longer had violent tendencies. He started to do a lot better. And I also want to tell you, when he went back for the 1 week at Christmas, and also after that in January, he started to display those tendencies again. So he would have meltdowns and just get extremely violent over the virtual learning, even though he had one-on-one support. So I just want to bring that forward as a special needs parent, that it's, it was very important that my son get back, and thank you for allowing that to occur. And I feel that you've done it in a very safe manner. Actually, I think you've done it a little bit overly conservative, but I'm okay with that. And then second, about the number of cases, I would ask that when you make these decisions to bring people back, that you base it on science and with the expertise of people who are actually, in the field. It doesn't have to do with the number of cases, as I think you well know in the Department of Health. It has to do with transmission rate, which is the lowest it's been in quite a while. Even with the variant that's coming from England and Ireland, where I operate, that variant, the transmission rate isn't going to where it was before. And then the second thing that I would also say, around the April date, also keep in mind, if you're using the vaccination, your immunity, you require the 2 doses. And some people, when they get that first dose, really, they don't show immunity to the virus. So I think the lady who's using the April date probably might want to rethink that one and really just go back and look at the science and kind of figure out who you're actually getting your information from. And again, I'm more than happy to volunteer my time to this committee to help you if you need somebody in the EH&S field. Okay, thank you for your time. And thank you again, Mr. Leone, if you're on the call.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay, next, looks like Kim Simon.
Yes, hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we have you.
So my name is Kim Simon. I have a daughter who is a senior at Middletown North. I also have another daughter who's in 7th grade. We pulled her out of Thorne over the summer and put her at St. Mary's. My background is I'm infection control certified nurse in an acute care hospital. I have been working during the pandemic, essential every day going to work, as has my husband, who's a police officer. Just a couple of points I want to make. We need to be looking at current stats, not just numbers, but severity of illness. We know that the severity of illness is definitely decreased from the early part of this pandemic in March and April. So while the news media likes to sensationalize with these numbers and use scare tactics, you have to know that the morbidity and mortality associated with COVID has gone down significantly since April. I would also encourage, as did the previous person that spoke, to really rely on the CDC data because it shows decreased severity in children under 18 and less transmission. This is evidence-based, science-based literature. I think we also need to look at neighboring schools and their successes. And I'll use St. Mary's as an example. My youngest daughter has been going there full-time, 5 days a week in person since the start of the school year. And they put a plan into place the summer before school started this year and executed that plan. And it's run very smoothly. As a matter of fact, I just wrote a letter to their principal commending their efforts. When they do have a case, and the cases thus far, knock on wood, have been few and far between, they appropriately follow the CDC guidelines and they put the classroom cohort of the positive student on a 14-day quarantine, but they continue to allow the other classes to participate in person 5 days a week. And this plan has worked beautifully. It's been very safe, very effective, and it's allowed my daughter to go to school in person 5 days a week. I also want to urge people not to forget about the negative effects of remote learning. As the previous person who spoke about the special needs child and the psychosocial impact of remote learning, I think many of us are feeling this and seeing it in our children, and we're very concerned. That's not something that we're paying enough attention to, and I am fully in favor, as a certified infection control nurse, of getting the kids back in school full-time, 5 days a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, next is Vera Pisecki.
Hi, Vera Paseki. I have a student in Thompson, as well as High School South. I wrote to the board earlier today, so I won't rehash everything. But one of the things that I wanted to address, and I don't want to make blanket statements, but I really think we need to look at these schools separately, and we might have to uncouple them from the plan. I can't speak for anybody else's school. There are 16 schools in this district, but I know in particular South is the population in-house is diminishing. When we started this plan in the beginning of August, we went into Thompson and South knowing, I don't have the exact numbers, but knowing that over 50% of the classrooms were not going to be socially distant. At this point, my son is attending classes with 2, 3, 4 kids. I don't know how you even plan for a reentry at this point. So I just wanted to make that point, and I think particularly for South, there are a lot of kids that would like to get back there full time. Well, not full time. I'm not gonna talk about masks or lunch because that is all tied to Trenton. But as it relates to getting back 5 days a week, there are a lot of kids that would like to get back 5 days a week, but I think the communication has to be so much better, particularly on a school level basis, to make sure that people are comfortable and understand the circumstances of that particular school. What is happening in South is very different than what might be happening in Leonardo. So thank you so much. Appreciate all of your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera.
Okay, next is Jennifer Johnson.
Chris, we can't hear her.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
All right. My name is Jennifer. I have a daughter in elementary school, and I am a nurse with Hackensack Meridian Health. I cared for COVID patients. I was deployed to the emergency room during the first wave, and I've been caring for patients during the second wave, COVID patients. And I think that I want to echo what a previous caller said about a closed door session regarding this really important topic. If it's that important, it should be open to the public. The Board of Ed, these are elected positions, elected by the public. We have a right to know what the discussion is. And also, I understand that we all want to get our kids back. I want my daughter to go back to school. I want our families to be normal with school days and playgrounds and everything. But Monmouth County is a hot spot still. Almost 4,000 people died from this virus yesterday. And we can't let down our vigilance now. Vaccinations are coming. They opened it up to people age 65 and older, and it's going to continue to open up, getting people more vaccines. Teachers will soon be getting vaccines. It won't be forever. It's going to be it's tough. It's a long slog. We've all been in it. And that's not even taking into account loved ones who've been lost, or grandparents or aunts or uncles or parents who could be sick and die if they got COVID. And I really think we need to be mindful about long-term effects for short-sighted gains. We just really can't let down our vigilance now. I think keeping the school plan the way it is with cohorts A and B and a half day so that there isn't lunchtime where masks are off, I think that's the way it should be staying. If we were to double the amount of students and double the length of time in school, it would significantly impact the ability to socially distance and put many more people at risk. And I just hope that those thoughts are taken into consideration, because a few more months of a really hard time might save lives over the long term. And we all want it to be over, but we can't stop being vigilant now. Thank you very much.
Okay, next is Christine Patel.
Can
you hear me?
Yes, we have you.
Hi, I'm Chris Patel. I have 2 students in Middletown High School North. I would like to let you know that there's a lot of rumors going around town that your closed door meeting was to talk about going 100% virtual for the remainder of the year. And that's very concerning to me. I think the program you have in place right now with cohorts is working well. And the numbers show that that's working well because we haven't had issues to close down the school except for the 2 weeks. And you were very good at addressing that. But our numbers with COVID presently are nothing compared to what the numbers were in March, April, May of last year. So you have a lot of policies in place and the cohort program is working great. I don't see any reason to go 100% virtual. In fact, I see every reason to go forward with, if the numbers are agreeing, to go 5 days for the students to be attending. And I just wanted to voice my opinion on that.
All right, thank you, Christine.
Okay, next is Catherine M. Farley.
Hi, thanks very much. So I just wanted to quickly voice my strong support for a return to 5 days in person for all students. First, just want to commend the district on providing some in person, to date since September and staying open. I know that that is a challenge for many districts and there are a lot of competing interests and a lot of pressure often to close. So I really do appreciate, that you guys have kept the schools open on the whole. The benefits of in-person school are undisputed, and I'm sure that you have heard from countless parents about the positive impact in-person school has had. You've heard from some tonight on their child's educational and social emotional development. And I know that you all know that in-person school is what we should be doing. And so at this point, any debate really is about safety. So it's time, I think, to balance the actual facts and what we know so far based on months of data in the United States alone with children being in person in school against, fear that many people in the community still have that is frankly unfounded by the data that we have in front of us. I'm sure you all know about the recent Duke study that just came out in the last day or two that found no transmission from children to adults, and they looked at 100,000 students in school, and child to child, adult to adult transmission within the school was minimal. So we know that children are safe and teachers are safe in an in-person environment. In fact, Governor Cuomo in New York recently said that the safest place to be in New York is in a public school right now. He just said that a couple days ago. And that's consistent with the data that they found from doing testing in New York in schools where the positivity rate is below 1% as compared to the general community where it's about 15% at any given time. Similarly, in Miami, the schools have been open full-time in person for all students since September. There is a less than 1% positivity rate in that district as well, despite being a very large district, the 4th largest in the nation. And despite the fact that Miami has contributed to something like a 1/5 or a 1/4 of all the positive cases in Florida. So we know that community spread numbers are frankly irrelevant to school. Governor Murphy said that even during periods of high community spread, children should be in school in person. And we've seen from being open here in Middletown that there have been few, if any, cases of in-school transmission. That's because schools are a controlled environment and we have protections in place like the daily health screening, like the masks, and like our ability to contact trace within this controlled environment. And that would not be discontinued if we got all students back 5 days. With plastic dividers, masks, and distancing as best we can, schools will be safe and compliant with the Department of Education and Department of Health regulations. And we know that many classrooms, I have a 1st grader at Nut Swamp, his classroom is not currently socially distant because there's too many kids even in his cohort right now to be socially distant. So adding more children back in is not going to substantively change anything, particularly when we have these continued precautions of the masks and the plastic dividers in place. It's time for all children to return to school 5 days a week. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Change our policy yet, though. We're trying to keep everybody. Thank you.
Okay, next is Denise Thompson.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we have you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Thompson. I have a 7th grader at Thompson Middle School and a 10th grader at South. I think many of you know me as I've been an active participant in BOME meetings, PIC, and the Thompson Pandemic Response Team. I wanted to say a quick thank you to the outgoing board members and a big welcome to our new board members. I'm a big fan of our school district, and in my involvement, I've been fortunate to get a peek at the amount of work and decision-making that has come into play for a district of this size. And I do appreciate that you take the time to listen to the public feedback. At times this year, it's been overwhelming for me to listen to the extreme opinions, and I cannot imagine how you must feel having to make these difficult decisions. I have not spoken up in quite a while, but I felt tonight I needed to voice my wishes. Middletown has accomplished great things since March, but I don't think any of us thought we would still be here. We're approaching 1 year of most of our children not being in a school building on a daily basis. But our children and teachers have been wearing masks in school, getting temps taken, proper cleaning procedures, routines have been established, and safety has been very controlled. We've moved successfully to phase 5, getting our students that need the extra academic support into the building, which has been phenomenal. A vaccine has now been released for our most vulnerable population, which is now available to our teachers and nurses, which gives us some hope for the future. So to my wish is for Middletown School District to do what they do best and lead us to the next phase by putting it all together, because you now have all the options to get our students back to school. Students who need to remain virtual can, students who need to be in school can and should, teachers who want the vaccine should get it. If children have the option to be virtual, children should also have the option to be back 5 days. Now, I don't know what those 5 days would look like. That approach is best in your hands. Maybe it's still early dismissals and then gradual from there. Maybe remote students have an option to roll in once a month when they're comfortable or a home situation has changed. But we have to start taking into consideration the mental health of our kids. It's starting to slide. It's been too long of rolling over in their beds and starting their day. We've got to motivate our kids back to becoming productive members of society. I'm not an expert in any field. I'm just a worried mom watching her kids withdraw and become less motivated. They need their peers, they need their teachers, they need socialization. The risk is so great at this point, and really hope and wish you start to set the direction of moving forward for all of us, but especially our kids. I believe there needs to be in-person 5 days option, and I'm very confident you will manage it safely.
Thank you, Denise.
Okay, next we actually don't have a full name, so maybe they can provide that to us. Hello? Hello, can you hear us? Okay, we are going to leave them in the queue, but we'll move on and we'll try them again towards the end of this list of speakers. Next, we have Ravi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ravi Sarma. I have a son who goes to Bayshore. And I am a mathematician and a logician, and I want to say, first of all, that it is irresponsible of people to say things like the media is spreading scare tactics and so on. We have official organizations and institutions that release data from the WHO to the CDC. We should look at those numbers. And what those numbers say is that the transmission rate is greater than 1 in New Jersey. We have had more than 3,000 deaths a day, every day for a good number of days now. So it would be quite irresponsible to suggest that the virus is under control, that the spread is under control. That is not true. Next, I want to say the reason why that things appear under control, that people are saying that let's open schools because it's looking good. But the reason why it's looking good is because we do not have 100% all full-time student presence in schools. And we know this from various bits of evidence, including a lot of studies. For instance, Israel opened their schools full time, and they had to shut them down quite immediately because things got out of control in terms of the infection rate. And the reason why we have this illusion that full-time student attendance for all 5 days works is because it forces many people to opt out. And that is what will happen, is that if we go ahead and do this change, then we essentially force people who are more concerned, force people who are worried about vulnerable people in their families to keep their kids full-time at home, or people who just look at these numbers and realize that it is a dangerous thing to open up schools full-time with lunch hour and so on. So they stay home. So in essence, you do not get full-time, but you get to maintain the image, the illusion that all kids are attending all the time. We have a safe and a sane plan right now. We have the hybrid model, and it works. And we have a vaccine that is available, that will be available to a lot more people over time. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. So it makes it's very prudent to wait until we have that, and also warmer weather, people being able to be outside, and such changes will make it a lot better to be gradual in the way we open up schools. The safety of teachers should be considered as well. And also going back to the point about people using numbers, one number that I see floated around a lot in social media from board members and others is that there's a 99.94% survival rate for COVID. That is not true. That is just actually technically impossible mathematically, because more than 0.06% of the population, unfortunately, has already had already died because of this virus. So,
If you finish up, because your time is up.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Janine.
Hi, how are you? I'm Janine Cito. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you all to the board and members, and congratulations to the new members on the board. I have two children in the district, one at Thompson, she's in 8th grade, and a son in 10th grade at South. I'm not only a parent, but I'm also a substitute teacher in the district. I work at Thompson School every single day. I feel safe. I am masked up. I see firsthand how great the schools are doing with the masks, the plastic shields, cleaning, wiping, everything. Everybody lends a hand on that. However, we really need the children back. I see it firsthand how it's affecting these kids emotionally and socially. I'm in the school and I see it. I see it with my own children, especially mine. The teachers are doing great. However, it's affecting them psychologically. At least at this time, if you would, please combine the cohorts. I think it can work. I maybe differently in each school, I'm not sure, but neighboring schools are doing it. I don't know why Middletown can't. If students had the option to be virtual, then students should have the option to come back at least now for 5 days. I'm just speaking as a concerned parent. For that, I see it at school and in my own house. Thank you so much for your time.
Next we have Valerie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we have you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Valerie Vakansich. I currently have a son at Leonardo Grade School. I've been living in the community 37 years. I can't thank you enough for your service. I am a teacher for the past 16 years in Chinatown, New York City. I was fully remote at the height of the pandemic. I went back in September. My school opened with 3 different models, full-time, hybrid, and fully remote. And I do have students that come full-time every day. And I have to express that our school is completely safe. I can't thank my students enough for being so diligent. My students that are in the classroom with me, I see how safe they are. And getting back to our schools, I see how safe our schools are. I am so proud of every single student in Middletown because they do the right thing every day. And I think that is why that we have been able to stay open. With that said, as I want to echo a lot of what has been already said from callers, these children do need to be back in school. My son has been home for the past week and is in cohort B, and he went back for the first day yesterday, and he couldn't have been more thrilled. I received a message from him, and he literally said to me, it was a great day. It was a great day because he got to see his friends, he got to see his teachers, and that is what should be our number one concern. I can tell you that my son did have COVID, and I myself in the house, along with his grandmother, did not test positive. And although I was nervous and scared, he came through it just fine. He did not spread it to anyone else. And I think it's time that we really consider that these children aren't the giant super spreaders that maybe we thought they were, that we should see what the data says. They need to be back in school. As a teacher and as a mom, they need to be in an environment that is consistent for them, where they're learning all the time. They have their teacher in front of them, encouraging them. These are their most important years, and I don't want to see them go through any more heartache and pain that they've already had to endure. I can tell you that every day when I drive into work, I feel completely safe. And every day that I send my son off to school, I feel completely safe. I want to commend all of you for how safe you have kept him, whether it's reminding them to keep up the masks, the sanitizing, whatever has happened in the school, you have been a huge part of. And I want you to really consider putting them back to at least 5 half days. I know it's a lot to ask for full days, but at least consider 5 half days. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Valerie.
Okay, next we have Fina. All right, Fina, you just have to unmute.
Sorry. Hi, I have kids in every area of the schools. I have elementary, middle school, and high school. I want to bring out several points. The first one is that based on what everybody else is doing in the country, not
I'm sorry,
just in New Jersey.
Fina, can you please state your name for the board and for the public?
Yes, I just Fina Cuerta.
Thank you.
I have kids in the district, elementary, middle school, and high school. Based on, I would like to bring up that we should have a Department of Diversity and Inclusion, just like most of the country does, and most of the public schools. And New Jersey being, I would consider New Jersey being one of the leaders in education. That, you know, we need to have a department that is responsible and making sure that kids have the an area where they can express themselves, where they can learn, where we can teach our kids how to stand up for themselves when they're scared, how they can acknowledge that while, you know, themselves have feel pain and are suffering, there is that this not just themselves, but there's other people in the world as well, other kids in the world as well, teaching them kindness and so forth. I know that there's like some kindness against bullying and programs in the school, but in my opinion, and in the opinion of several of the parents that I also know whose kids have struggled with bullying, that is definitely not enough. So I would like to try to get the board to, or people at least start exploring the idea of having a department that can address diversity and inclusion within the school, so that all the schools know exactly how to do that effectively. I also want to bring up some of the points that, you know, everyone brought. I understand that the more than anything, as parents, what parent is out there saying that your kid shouldn't be in school, that your kid shouldn't be in school 5 days a week? Of course not. We all know that. However, we want to make sure that there is a plan. I would like to make sure that there is a plan that will safeguard our children when they're in school. I mean, obviously, if your kid already had COVID, clearly the child was not protected from COVID because they got COVID. So I don't know how that worked out. But but what I more importantly, what I would like to know is if we go towards that level, how we're going to maybe not just open up the schools and bring everybody and then have to shut all those schools down because of it. Maybe doing it, have a plan in place so that we can really know how as parents, how, what kind of, how we're going to address it, what are the intentions, propose diagrams as to how they're going to be opening up the schools, how they're going to be done. And as parents, we should have the details to be presented to us so that we can also be part of that conversation to know exactly, what is safe and what is not. Again, like everyone, most of the parents have said, also, sound decisions that are scientifically proven, not just because, I had this, my kids had this, my school has that, my school has that. We can't compare apples and oranges. Middletown is a huge district, and there aren't many districts in around the neighborhood here that are as big as Middletown. So we are unique in that aspect. The other aspect that I want to bring out is that the reason why most of us live in Middletown is because of the highly certified teachers that are.
Fina, could you please conclude because it's been over 3 minutes? Thank you.
You just have to unmute, Fina.
I stay in Middletown because of the highly certified teachers and the great education that Middletown has been able to maintain. So that I do highly want to bring into everyone's attention that cutting down, I know there's some proposal about, getting teachers that are less, saving money here or there. But I just want to say that I hope that we can maintain that integrity of having highly certified teachers within the district, because that is what will continue to provide our students with a good education. Thank you.
Okay, next is Dan Pitzer.
Good evening. My name is Dan Pitzer. I have 2 kids in the school system. I live on Monmouth Avenue in the Port Monmouth section of Middletown. And my concern is mostly that we as parents will be given a decision as to what's best for our kids. We are hearing a lot of comments which are focused on all kids need to be back full time. That means that these other parents are stating what they believe is right for my kids. The concern is that will there be a hybrid option even if our kids do not go back after the next phase? Will we still be able to make that decision, let's say April, just to pull something out of a hat and say, okay, I'm comfortable with them going back now because their transmission rate has changed, the vaccinations are more rolled out? Or are we making a decision in February to basically say, my kid is going to be fully remote for the rest of the year and I can't change that? We think it's important for the parents to be able to have that option, to have that remote option for their own kids. If people are comfortable sending their kids back 5 days a week, fantastic, go ahead, have that option. But we want to make sure that the parents who are not comfortable with that will have the option to keep our kids in a remote learning situation and be able to make that decision as we go along. Because things will be different 3-4 months down the road. And we want to make sure that we do have that option. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, next we have Lisa. I don't have a last name, so maybe they can provide it for us.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Lisa. Can you
Hi.
give us your full name, please?
Yes, my name is Lisa Leek. I have 3 children in the Middletown School District. I just wanted to share something on a personal note. Everyone's talking about the research they've done, the statistics they've read, the articles they read, and I'm the same. I do it as well. I'm a teacher in a local district, so I do see all sides of this when it comes to children needing to be in school and obviously receiving a better education in person. But on a personal note, I do have to say that I think it's very concerning when everybody is mentioning how, there's the transmission rate is low and how children don't pass it. 4 weeks ago, I buried my grandfather who died of COVID. Again, I have no idea where he picked it up from, other than the fact that both my parents got it and they are his caregiver. I'm around my parents. My children, who are obviously in the school district, are around them as well. Where he got it from, I do not know for sure, but I don't think anybody realizes that this could be your grandparent. This could be your parent. And it's very upsetting when people are saying how, oh, it's not affecting you personally. And I understand that too. Thank God a lot of you haven't experienced it. But for those who have, you need to understand what it's like when we're hearing everybody else say, don't worry, it's not, people can't spread it. Children aren't giving it. You don't know. Just imagine that your kids or or you personally, or these poor teachers who have no choice. We keep talking about the choices of, the kids and the parents. These teachers have to go and do their job. So if they brought it home and their parent or grandparent got sick and passed away, they would never forgive themselves. And again, I can't say for certain where mine got it, but this is the situation we're in. And I think this needs to be remembered that yes, maybe it doesn't affect most in this situation and that we just unfortunately got hit by it, but it could be any one of your parents or grandparents. It could be any one of your children who bring it home and you're the one who gets affected by it. So I just think you guys need to put it on yourselves a little bit and realize that this can affect you personally. Thank God it hasn't, but it can. And it's not fair to put that on everybody else and put it on the teachers and expect them to experience, to have everyone in full time at the same time when this could be the situation. Like a few other people said, we are hopefully nearing the end of this. Things, the shot is out. Those who said it's available to teachers, you all know that's not true yet. So I don't know why that was said, but this needs to be done correctly. We can't just have everyone come in at once. Should children eventually be back in school? 100%. Fully agree. I have 2 special education children. 100% kids need to be in school. But we can't just go from doing it appropriately like Middletown has to suddenly opening the doors and having a floodgate of everyone come in at once. How will we know what is the root cause if an outbreak happens? It needs to be done slowly. We need to do what you guys have been doing with starting the phases and seeing what works and what not, and see if obviously an outbreak occurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We're sorry for your loss.
Okay, next is Lori Sanzio.
Hello.
Hi, Lori.
Can you hear? Hi. My name is Lori Sanzio. I'm a speech pathologist in a neighboring district. I'm also a mother of 2 children in the district. My son goes to Thompson Middle School and my daughter goes to Lincroft Elementary. I'm just calling in just to say that I am in favor of moving to the phase where all students are going 5 half days a week. I really believe that in-person learning is what is needed. I can see these social and emotional and psychological differences from my students who are going 5 days a week, as well as one of my children are going 5 days a week. She's doing very well since we've moved the IEP students to going 5 days a week. I see how my son, who doesn't have an IEP, how he is struggling. Children just are not meant to learn like this. This was supposed to be an emergency Band-Aid, an emergency situation. I just feel like we're kind of acting like this is normal virtual learning, and it really isn't. Children are not meant to attend for the amount of time that they're expected to attend. I also feel like the social and emotional well-being of the children are definitely being impacted. They are not socializing as much. They are, there's more depression. So I just really wanted to say that I really feel strongly that we should be moving to 5 half days. And I also wanted to thank the district and the board for moving the kids with the IEPs to 5 half days. And I'm hoping that we can move all the students soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, next is Shani Sasso.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we have you.
Okay. Hi, I have a first grader at Nut Swamp Elementary School. I just wanted to first thank you for all of your hard work and for listening to our concerns tonight. My main reason for being here is just to voice my support for the children getting back to 5 full days in person, and at the very least half days. I think we all can agree that safety is definitely first priority. And I do feel that children are most safe in school. The majority of cases, to my knowledge, that, with regard to COVID have come from outside the school. It's been very rare, if ever, where the children are transmitting the virus that we know of. Again, just, like Kate Farley had said, we have the benefit of the controlled environment within the school. So we have the masks, we have the social distancing. On another note, I'm a school psychologist in a different district, and I will tell you that remote learning is just not working. It's not benefiting anyone. My students that I work with are suffering a great deal. They're regressing academically, socially, emotionally. Overall, I just wanted to, thank Middletown. I think they're doing a great job for, with regard to the safety precautions. And I think that we can now move into the next phase of bringing the children back 5 days, full days. I think we can all work together and come up with a plan to make it work. And that's really it. And I just wanted to say, I think teachers, we don't talk about it as much, that they are truly the most essential workers out there. And we have to remember that. And we just need to get these children back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Bridget Salmon.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Bridget.
Hi, how are you? I just want to say I'm thankful for all of the efforts the district has taken so far for getting the children back. But I too do support the children going back 5 half days, not asking for full days at this point. But the point I want to make is that I don't think we can really take a blanket approach when establishing the reentry plan. I think we need to look at the logistics of elementary, middle versus the high school and consider them separately when we're coming upon the plan. Because I think that the difficulties with one school, middle school versus high school should not be taken into account when analyzing elementary. For elementary, the kids are in the one room. We don't have the moving parts of transferring from class to class. They're wearing masks, and it's been safe so far. The other point I want to make is that several of the classes we have, the IEP and the 504 kids have come back early. And in our school, there are classes that have about 17 kids in the class. And I just want to make the point that in those classes, we have not seen a rise in COVID cases. So why can't that be implemented for the non-IEP 504 classes if we see it working in those scenarios? So that's the points I wanted to make. Just, I hope when we do make the reentry plan, we just consider the different, levels of education separately, because some have more difficulties than other. And if we can move forward in one, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
Okay, next we have Catherine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Sverchek. I have 2 young children in River Plaza, kindergarten and first grade. Remote learning has been, a struggle, just like everyone. But I just want to emphasize what Bridget had said in terms of the reentry and looking at the elementary, middle, and high school. I have a kindergartner who cries like every day saying she wants to go in person. She is on that computer from 9 to 12. And these are the building blocks of these children, and they really need to be in person. I honestly believe that the transmission is not in school. It's a lot of things that happen outside of school, and they're doing a great job. I feel safe sending my kids to school. They wear masks, they have plastic protectors. I just, as a as a mom, I just really want you to rethink this, the 5-day half person. And I do think you guys have done a great job, and you've taken this slow. I mean, we have been here since almost a year, and you guys have taken it slow. So we're not rushing into anything. So I just want to say thank you for all your hard work, and just really, really rethink that 5-day half person. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, next is Rachel Kanapka.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we have you.
Okay, great. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you all. I appreciate how difficult a challenge this is for everybody. I know everybody's fatigued and exhausted. As individual parents, we are. And we're only thinking of our own kids, so I can only imagine how much heavier the burden is when you're trying to consider the well-being of, almost 10,000 kids all at once. So I appreciate that, and I wanted to say thank you for that. I do think that there are many opinions on what should be done. I honestly am torn. I go back and forth every day about what I think would be better for my individual kids. And at the end of the day, I feel like Middletown, the administration has done a very good job of keeping my children safe so far in the hybrid model. I also know that the development of the plan, as it was put out already, was very thoughtful, very thorough. It involved a lot of stakeholders, a lot of parents, and it was put together in a very comprehensive way. And I appreciate that. So I don't really have a suggestion for you tonight as to what I think you need to do. I do just want to say thank you to the administration for the plan you did put out and how you've executed it so far. I think one thing everybody seems to agree on in terms of the commenters tonight is that you're doing a great job keeping our kids safe and doing the best you can to have them learning. Obviously, this year is never and never could have been as good as the previous year. You take away, a quarter of their instructional time, you have them working from home. We all know that that was never going to be an ideal situation. And as much as we want them back 5 days, we need to do it safely. I think one thing that we can all agree on also is we should never take for granted again 5 days a week. So I'm hopeful that everybody remembers this as we move forward into next year. And also, I think it's come up a few times, but I just want to reiterate, the teachers in our town have been doing a phenomenal job at an impossible task. I have communicated with several of my girls' teachers. I have 3 kids at Thompson, and the amount of time and effort they are putting in is easily double, if not triple, what is to be expected in a normal year. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to the teachers for all you're doing. It really does make a huge difference. And I know obviously nothing is ideal this year, but everybody's making the best with what they have, and I'm very grateful for that. So I guess moving forward, I just wanted to say thank you to the administration. You guys are the experts, and I do have faith based on what you've done so far that you will make a wise decision that thinks of all the kids. Again, I know it's easy in every one person's shoes to know what we think is best for our individual child. And I just appreciate the immense challenge you have of trying to make that decision for 10,000 kids at once. But I have faith in you to do it and to do it well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This will be our last speaker.
Okay, we have Jesse Sickler.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Jessie Stickler, Port Monmouth, New Jersey. I have a 4th grader in New Monmouth and 2 8th graders in Thorne. My comments are not around the safety of going back to school. I'm more of a numbers girl. So a few things, like some of the others said, I'm trying to understand how matters related to policy 1648 fall under the reasons allowing a closed session. Personnel matters such as leave, usually published in the agenda. I know that you have the challenge of the Family Leaves Act, which is causing a decrease in the number of teachers that are available to go back full time. So I think it would benefit the board to be honest about what the total number of teachers are, what the total number of teachers are that are using the family cares that are not in school or out for whatever reason. You don't even have to say the reason. How many teachers do we have out? Because we know we have some regular out on medical or maternity leave, family leave. So what are we looking at really? The bottom line, school by school, we should have this many teachers, but we have this many teachers, because really what it comes down to is whether or not it's safe or not. If you don't have the staff to bring people back, you don't have the staff. And if you want to try to get the staff to do what they're doing now with the subs. So I know, for example, my girls, all of their teachers are in person when they go in. But friends of mine, their children send their children to school and they literally have 5 or 6 subs. So they might as well just stay home if they're going to look at their teacher on a computer anyway. And what are those subs costing us? And what does the pool look like right now for subs? Because in the beginning of the year, we know that that was also a challenge the district was facing, is that the pool of subs significantly dwindled. And were we getting them because we were raising the dollars that we're paying for them? So I hope that some of these questions will be answered in the presentation tonight, because I think it's really important for the public to know the numbers. Thanks.
Thanks, Jessie. Okay, that ends our public portion, and we're going to turn it over to administration to give us the recap on our reentry plan, how we started and where we are now. I hope everybody stays on and listens to the report of the superintendent, Mrs. Walker.
We have some folders that we're going to give out to the board with some information in it that I'm going to go over in 1 minute. All right.
How are the board members online? Do they have this information or they don't?
I'm sorry, you're like going, it's hard to hear you, so I didn't hear. How are the?
Joan, we do not have what's
it,
being
Joan.
handed out.
How are the board members at home going to see this information?
We will send it. We're going to put it in the portal. They don't have it right now. It's really too much to look at it right now. I'm just going to point out what it is and talk about it, because it's, if you see it, it's quite a bit thick. I just want to. You're not going to be reading off of it. No, you can look at it and just get an idea of what it is, but I just wanted you to have it for later. All right, so.
All right, make sure we get it to the 3 board members that are online.
Yes, we will. We're going to put it in the portal, okay? All right, so I just want to have everybody, like this right here, you don't have this because I didn't print this out. This is like 100 and something pages of, I don't even know how many pages there are in here. It's like, I don't know, over 100 pages. This was the road back manual that the New Jersey Department of Ed provided to us to create our reopening plan. This is the document that our committees over the summer used to, create our actual plan. Now, because this was too much to copy, you also have something that's called the health and safety standards for establishing safe and healthy conditions. This is the portion of this plan that really pertains to health and safety most. And then there's also a checklist. Where's the checklist? There's also a checklist. I don't even see mine. Anyway, oh, here it is. There's a checklist, which is also kind of a little cheat sheet for everything the schools had to do. And for the most part, excuse me, when we're talking about health and safety, we're talking about the mask wearing in school at all times. We're talking about the social distancing as much as practical that can be done. And if it can't be done at 6 feet, then using other methods to supplement, whether it be shields, making students be all in a row. These are things that the plan called for to be to keep the students safe, right? So they were like the key components. So if you wanted to look through them at your own leisure, if you had nothing to read, you can see all the guidelines that we had to follow, right? So in July, the committees took all this information and they came up with some scenarios or options for how we could start school, but still stay within these guidelines. So during the summer, and that's another document you have here. It's called possible in-person schedule options, September 2020. These were options that the board looked at and we discussed of how we could get school started. And you'll see there's, okay, we could go all in full time. We could go all in early dismissal. You know, there's different options. We could do the hybrid model that we chose. It's just every scenario that we could possibly think of to, to open up. We talked about split sessions. There's all different options that we talked about. And that's when we came up with the hybrid model. So our plan, which is this big document is our plan, is what the board approved in July. And I gave you a portion of that from page 44 to the end, which is like page 101, which is actually like the meat of the plan. So if you wanted to read through our plan from, you know, what exactly we're doing, all of that is in here. But basically, our plan called for all the safety measures and followed the guidelines. It called for the hybrid method to start, and we established 6 different phases that we were planning to move through. All right. The first phase was professional development, which was required by the road back. The professional development was for teachers to understand and be able to implement the health and safety guidelines that had to be done, to support student social emotional health, right? And to provide the higher quality of teaching and learning opportunities for students on campus as well as virtually. So that's what the professional development was in phase 1. Phase 2 was our teachers met with parents and students, took about a week to meet with every single student because students had been out of school for about 6 months. We wanted to make it a smooth reentry. School was going to look very different from when they left it in March. And we wanted parents to be able to speak to teachers about the needs of their students, academic and social emotional. So that was phase 2. Phase 3 is when students entered into the cohort model. And at that time, students were going cohort A on Monday and Tuesday, cohort B on Thursday and Friday. Wednesday was a virtual day. After 1 week, we decided, you know what, we should be using Wednesdays. We should get students in another day. So that's when we started using Wednesdays after that week. So then students were over a 2-week period able to go 1 additional day. Phase 4 was when we brought back all of our special needs students, anybody that was at risk, our ELL students, our IEP students, students who were in tiered interventions. Those students were brought back, expanded the number of students in the class a little bit, but not, you know, to the fullest extent if the whole classes went back. So since phase 4, those students have been going 5 days a week. Phase 5, we just began to implement in December. And last week, we completed that implementation where our students that had been virtual since the beginning of the year, they now had the opportunity to enter back into the classroom, or enter for the first time, not back. This was the first time they were entering the classroom. So we just completed phase 5. So now we're looking at phase 6, and there's options that, you know, we have to think about. The health and safety of students, the social emotional needs. I mean, we've heard of many differing opinions tonight, but we're just going to talk a little bit. Actually, Devin is going to talk a little bit, Devin Orozco. She's going to talk a little bit about how we make decisions to close schools, to quarantine people, the health data that we're looking at, and that might give everybody a little bit better understanding of what we do and why we do what we do. So Devin, are you there?
I am. Good evening, members of the board. Thanks for having me tonight. So after the Department of Education released their guidance documents and really policy, the New Jersey Department of Health released their guidance documents. And so by and large, what we follow now is the New Jersey Department of Health guidance as it's updated, and they've updated it a few times now since the beginning of the school year. So I'm going to share a couple things that I took from some of the major documents that we use. See if I can get this going right. All right. We want that one. All right, now do you see the whole thing?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is a snapshot of one of the documents that the Department of Health releases each week. And this gives us our COVID, I just call them kind of the color levels, and it's the risk level that we look at each week and what we have to make our decisions based on. So in the beginning of the school year, we were actually at a green level. So they were at low risk level or low activity level. In October and the beginning of November, we were in a yellow or moderate level of activity. And then since about the middle of November, we have been in the orange level or the high activity level. So what that affects is, oh, and here's some more statistics, a little bit about the state. This was released just this morning, and this is our most current data. We are in the Central East region, for those who follow along. So we have a little bit of data there that they use to determine that our risk level is still at that high level. So this is part of the recommendations for schools as we follow them. So in general, we are in the high risk column, that orange column, which recommends that we restrict activities that involve multiple cohorts, and that we do need to take extra steps when it comes to quarantining students based on symptoms, which I'll get to in a moment. These are some of the general guidelines and general safety precautions that we are mandated to do regardless of risk level. And then here we go. So if you have been paying attention to some of my PIC presentations and otherwise, you may have already seen me talk about the changes when we got into the orange level. Now we have to exclude any students or staff members who have been a close contact to someone with COVID compatible symptoms, not just those who have tested positive for COVID themselves. Just the week before Christmas break, the state actually also released a new guideline in that we are not able to accept an alternate diagnosis for students or staff members if they do not have a negative COVID test. So that's already one of the changes that we've seen since we have been back from break. All right, what else we use their guidance for is when it comes to closure of schools. So on the previous picture, this is really what happens with individuals when they are exposed to COVID, or if they test positive, or if they have symptoms. Whereas this guidance relates to what we do with entire schools, or in our case, the whole district, when there are cases of COVID in the school. So anything you see in yellow was changed as of about 2 weeks ago. But what we are following is this guidance as it applies to each of our schools and as it is applied to each of the cases in our schools. And what I mean by that is that we consider closing schools for a period of time, depending on the very specific data that we have about the cases in those schools. So when we have cases where we know the source, those are a little bit different than when we have cases that don't know their source. And so those are also changes that the Department of Health has made relatively recently. And so this is what we use when we're talking about closing schools, from anywhere from one case in the school to multiple cases in the school. It is not mandated, but it is the Department of Health's guidance and strong recommendations. And so this is what we use when we talk to the Middletown Department of Health each time we have multiple cases in a school building. That's everything I have on the guidance documents that we've been using as it relates to health data.
All right, Mr. Ranella.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to give you a quick, we just started our phase 5, where we allowed those students that had been attending remotely to return back into the cohort model. So we just took a snapshot of the attendance rates for this week for both cohort A and cohort B. And I just wanted to share with, I'm not going to get into the real fine details of it, but just the percentage of the amount of students that are actually attending. So at the high schools, out of the number of students that are enrolled in cohort A or cohort B, the percentage of them that are actually attending or coming into school for this week, again, this is just a snapshot of this week, the percentages range anywhere from 54% to 67% of the students that are supposed to be there actually being in the building at that time. As you go from high school to middle school to elementary school, the percentages increase. So for the middle schools, we have a range anywhere from 72% as our low and the high of 82% of the students that, again, are enrolled in that cohort actually coming to school and sitting in the seat that day. And down at the elementary level, that's where we have our highest level of attendance. We range anywhere from 84% as a low to a high of 98%. And for the most part, the elementary schools, with the exception of a couple of cohorts, are in the mid 90% range. So the percentage at the elementary school that are in the cohort that are actually coming to school and not participating remotely. And when I say they're coming to school, I mean that they're actually coming and sitting in the seat that day. Otherwise, if they're not, then they're participating virtually. So they're still in attendance, but they're not coming into the building at that time. So we have an empty seat, for lack of a better word, in that classroom. So again, the elementary goes from 84 to 98. The middle schools are anywhere from 72 to 82%. And the high school range is about 54% to 67%.
No, you can't. Okay. Mr. Brunella, how many, I know you said 54% of the high school students are coming in. What is the number of high school students, this cohort, that, is it 100 kids that are there that are supposed to be, that are allowed to come to school? Or is it only 50 children that are supposed to be coming in high school?
So those numbers are obviously different based on the cohorts. But for instance,
this week, let's go with this week. Am I too loud?
No. So again, those numbers range from a low of 419 in a cohort to a high of 501 in a cohort.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
50%.
You have to unmute. Well, it still says muted on here.
Mr. Heffernan would like to know what is the percentage of the IEP students that are attending in person?
I don't have that number up, prepared for this evening. I didn't run it. I didn't get down that well into the details.
I'm curious myself as to what, I mean, we got percentages of how many kids in each cohort, but what does an average class number look like? Because we've heard people tonight say there's 2, there's 3. What does that look like, and what are we looking at for that?
So, I mean, at the high school level, it varies. You know, there's some rooms that have 3 or 4 students in it. There's other rooms that have 7, 8, 9 kids in it. It really depends on the class. I can say that I was at High School South today, and I walked just about every classroom, looked in, and again, it varied. So that's where I'm coming with those numbers, depending on the class and the number of students that actually are enrolled in that class. Obviously, you know, you split that in half, and then if only 50% of those students are attending, the number will be whatever 50% is. So again, it could range from anywhere from 1 to 2 to 8, 9 kids in the class per cohort.
And another question that somebody had brought up tonight was, can you hear me?
Kind of.
Was that the cohort A and B, how many, if we combine them, how many kids per class would that be? I'm not saying we are, and I don't have an idea, but we're trying to figure out if one cohort has 2 to 3 kids in it, what happens when we have 2 cohorts together?
I can't give you an answer with specifics on that because, again, I didn't break it down class by class. I just did overall attendance for the building. So I don't have it individually for each class. So it's hard for me to answer that question. But again, if, you know, just speaking hypothetically on averages, if you say that the average of 5 kids are in a class, 6 kids, and then you double it, you know. But again, those are just hypothetical numbers I'm throwing out there.
And can I just say something too? You know, students aren't attending for various reasons. One is that maybe their friends aren't going anymore, so they didn't want to go. Another may be the rates in the town are higher. Maybe a parent's deciding that, you know, for the next couple of weeks, let's just stay at home and, you know, do virtual. There's all different reasons. If, you know, if we did put the kids together, we wouldn't, you know, necessarily have the same attendance rate. That attendance rate might be higher or that attendance rate might be lower. So it would be something we would have to, you know, put something out to find out who would come back and who would not to actually get those numbers. We can't rely on our current attendance rates, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
The other concern I had, we had people sign up saying that they're going to attend in person, and some days they come and some days they don't. How are we addressing that? Because, you know, like someone said tonight, if in-person people have a right, in-person students have a right to go in and to learn virtual, and virtual students only had the right to learn virtual, you know, how is that there?
Well, I'm not so sure if the case is that students are coming in some days and going out. I think it's pretty steady. I think students that are out right at the moment, and the students that are in are in. When we went to phase 5, students can enter at any time. So we're not keeping anybody out. If they decide to stay out for 2 weeks, they can always come back in. We actually were working, saying, what can we do? Is there some kind of policy or not a policy, but, you know, some kind of procedure we can implement that if somebody decides to stay out, they now have to stay out for a couple of days. That might entice kids to come back in. And then we're like, well, it won't, it's not going to work. So, you know, we're still working on that. You know, we're you know, the teachers and the administration, as someone said, are the communicators, and they're communicating the importance of being in school at this time. I don't think keeping them out is going to help bring them back in. We have to do something else to encourage them to come back in.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to keep them out if they want to come back in, but
Yeah.
just listening to some of the comments tonight, and from what I heard, a few of the comments at the PIC meeting, that was a concern.
Yeah, it is a concern. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, we just don't have a solution at this point.
Does anyone else have any comments that they want to make or questions? No? All right. I'm glad that we got to do this presentation for the public as well as the board, because the whole intent was to bring us up to speed. I hope the public realizes that there is no decisions being made. We have 3 new board members. Some of us needed to be refreshed, and that was the whole point. the point of going into closed session is for personnel matters that relate to the reentry plan. And this is no action being taken and no vote. For us right now, it's purely informational.
Thank you. Mrs. Menuez, I just wanted to add that in addition to personnel matters, topics that also are exempt from public disclosure under the Open Public Meetings Act that may be discussed this evening may involve collective bargaining with various unions and employees in the district, strategies to protect public security and safety, physical and personal, contract negotiations, you said, attorney-client privilege, and potential and or anticipated litigation. Minutes will be taken and released to the public if and when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. And as you indicated, no action is anticipated to be taken this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, we've been
Yes.
provided with the executive session agenda, and there's only one item on that agenda.
That you're correct, Mr. Jaimo. It is one item. However, all of the exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act, as I indicated, are tied to and are directed or related to that one item. So, for instance, reopening may involve personnel-related issues and contractual issues with your collective, with your unions. Reopening may involve potential and or anticipated litigation issues regarding various matters. So, strategies to protect public security, that is directly related to the reopening plan when it comes to various strategies and or procedures related to the reopening. And of course, all of the above is covered by the attorney-client privilege pursuant to NJSA 10:4-6.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
You're welcome, sir.
Mrs. Menuez, you're muted.
I need a resolution to go into closed session for matters related to policy 1648, restart and recovery plan.
Motion, you mean, Joan?
Yeah, motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? All right, a motion to adjourn the meeting now, Mr. Taylor? Are we adjourning this meeting now? Okay, motion to adjourn this meeting. Oh, no. Yeah, we're going into closed session. Okay, we just did that. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you for joining in. I hope some of this information has helped you out in where we were and where we are now.
You have to come back into public to adjourn, but
Yeah, we will
technically
be
we're going
back
to close session.
to adjourn.
There's no action. The only action will be an action to adjourn. That's it. So we have to close out of this, right?